So without further ado, let me introduce our next speaker, Christina Ayers. Christina is a clinical research nurse and a clinical trial coordinator at Box Hill Hospital here in Melbourne. And she has broad expertise with clinical trials in myeloma and amyloidosis in particular. She is very, very passionate about good clinical practice and extending all these treatment options, new trial drugs to patients. And it has been my absolute pleasure to be working with Christina in our trials unit. And she really does set the standard of the dedication and care that she gives to patients, as well as the empathy that she shows in all the interactions with patients and families. So let us welcome Christina.
Hello, hopefully that works. I'm just going to share my slides.
Christina.
Does that work? Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Olga, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to be at my first AAN meeting. So yeah, as Olga said, I am a research nurse. My background is more specifically in cancer trials, but I'm very excited to be working now with amyloidosis patients as well in a trial setting. I first came across amyloidosis back in 2012, actually, when my best friend's dad passed away from AL amyloidosis, and it's amazing to see how far we've come since then. With so much dedication from so many people here and also not here today. So I thought I'd just keep the presentation kind of broad. I know some of you may be on a clinical trial or have worked in clinical trials, so it may not be sort of new information, but I'll try to sort of whiz through anyway, because I'm sure you've got other things you want to be doing tonight. So just briefly, I guess.
Sorry, Christina, sorry to interrupt you. You're not on presenter view. You're not on the slideshow. There should be a little button at the very bottom.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you. Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes. So just starting off really broad, when we think about trials, well, what are they? So they're really a system for evaluating both the safety and efficacy of new treatments or changes to existing treatment regimes. So when we think about trials, we generally think about new medications or pills, but we also do have trials with medical devices and even psychological therapies. And I've just got a little diagram down the bottom there with all the different phases of the clinical trials, right from, phase 1, where we do a lot of testing, a lot of blood tests, a lot of visits, all the way through to phase 4 trials, which are when drugs are nearly ready to be out in the market. One of the things, I guess, that we really focus on when we get someone in who may be suitable for a clinical trial is making sure we provide them with all the information we can. There's a lot of jargon out there, so we try to give information in a way that people can understand, and we try to make sure that before you commit to a trial that you're aware of your other options and that your consent is always voluntary. One thing we also like to point out is that if you decide not to participate in a clinical trial or you withdraw your consent once you're on the trial, it won't affect your future care. So why have I been offered a clinical trial? So largely because your doctor probably thinks it may benefit you. Another option is that you may have exhausted all your standard of care options, or you may have a condition that doesn't really have a standard of care option sort of to begin with. And so that often links into trials that are placebo controlled. So I guess one of the things to be aware of is that some of our trials will either give you the active drug or you might get the inactive component. And most of the time you won't know what you're getting, and neither will your study team. And that's just a way of reducing bias in trial reporting. And also it really gives us a good idea of whether this new agent is effective. So this is just a bit of a pathway I've drawn up, which explains a bit about the process. So Usually a trial will be brought up with your doctor. You'll be given some paperwork to read. All our paperwork is written at a language that is not too jargony, so hopefully easy enough to follow. You'll then have time to read the paperwork. You'll then be contacted by myself, generally one of our study coordinators, and we'll organise for you to come in to speak further about the trial with your treating clinician. If you're happy to participate, you'll sign the paperwork and then we'll start the screening period. So we do need to screen you. That can be up to, 1 month, or it could be a few months, to see that you meet all the criteria, all the eligibility criteria. So you'll be sent off often for some imaging, blood tests, a few other bits and pieces. And once all the results of those tests are back, usually the coordinator and the doctor will sit down, we'll double check everything, and if you're eligible, then we'll sign you on and you will commence treatment. Treatment phase, obviously it depends on the trial as to the frequency of visits. If you're on an IV medication, it'll involve coming into our day unit for infusions through the vein, or some trials it's a tablet, so you'll collect your medication from our specialist pharmacy. When you're on a trial, one thing to be mindful of is there are a lot of visits, more than you'll have as if you're on a standard of care therapy. And that's because, as I said previously, we're still evaluating how safe the drug is. So we're on the lookout for any side effects, and we're keen to speak with you frequently about this. So that's one thing to consider if you're considering a clinical trial, that you will generally have more face-to-face contact, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. We often, there's a lot of incidental findings when we do our thorough testing that we then investigate further to ensure that your health's the best it can be. And then once you finish your treatment, you will enter, you'll enter a follow-up period. So again, depending on the trial, it might be weekly, monthly, yearly. It might be a face-to-face follow-up, or it might be just a phone call. One of the reasons we follow you up over such a long period of time is to evaluate long-term safety and efficacy of the drugs. So just like to point out here as well that, our number one priority when we have you on a trial is ensuring your safety and your well-being. So our commitment to you, so as I've touched on, we aim to provide you with as many resources as we can so that you're informed about what you're signing up to. We're always clear and transparent about what the trial involves. If there's an update to the trial that may impact you, we will let you know. This may then mean you'll have to come in more frequently, depending on, any findings on the trial. There's a specialised team that will care for you, so you'll get very familiar with a lot of the nursing staff and a few of the doctors who specialise in amyloidosis specifically, and you'll have a point of contact if you have any questions about your health. We will also, and this is a question we get asked a lot, we will aim to reimburse you for any reasonable expenses that you incur as part of the trial. So your commitment, I briefly discussed this before, there are more appointments than you'll have for standard of care, so just to be aware that you'll be seeing us a lot more. You'll have regular calls from the study team and potentially extra scans and blood tests. And we also ask that you are a bit more flexible with when you can come to site. We are asked to adhere to about a 200-page manual, really, which outlines exactly what we need to do, and sometimes isn't very flexible with the appointments. So we just ask that you let us know if you've got anything coming up, and we'll try to accommodate it. But also, we do ask our patients to be as flexible as possible. And we also ask that you keep us posted. So any changes to health, even something very small, you might have started a new medication, as well as something a little bit more serious, like an unexpected admission to hospital. So that was very quick, but just a little bit of an introduction on what we do here at Box Hill. I've worked in a few different teams and can say that things run slightly differently. So depending on, if you are to sign up for a trial, where you go, might be slightly different. But yes, I'm just more speaking to where I am now at Eastern Health. I've got my details there if anyone has any questions.
Christina, thank you so much. That was just a wonderful overview into the world of clinical trials and what participation in a clinical trial may entail. And we usually get quite a few questions about what it's like to be part of the clinical trial. And I'd like to open the floor for questions now, both, I guess, to you and to Pat as well. But before everyone is gathering their thoughts, so some questions come up about the placebo-controlled arm. And as you mentioned, we don't know, and you don't know, the patients don't know which drug they're getting. And usually the placebo-controlled trials are those where the two treatment regimes are thought to be equally efficacious, or perhaps the new regime is going to be slightly more efficacious. Otherwise, it will be unethical to have an arm of the trial that provides the drug that doesn't work at all. Okay, so but what happens in a clinical trial if the preliminary data shows that the experimental arm is significantly better than the placebo-controlled arm?
Sorry, is this a question for me?
Yeah, I was going to ask you and see in your experience.
To be honest, I've had more experience with interim analyses indicating that it's not efficacious at all and stopping a trial prematurely. I guess, and I have a lot of experience as well from working in neurology trials for a while, which there was no standard of care. So it wasn't an ethical conundrum like you just spoke about, because there wasn't anything else that we could give these patients really. So, they were happy to sign up and hope that they potentially got something that could benefit them. But no, I haven't really had a situation where they've found something to be that much better that they've kind of stopped the trial early.
I think what may happen in that scenario sometimes is that the trial is paused and the patients who are on the placebo can cross over into the active treatment arm, or in the maintenance phase of the trial, there's an opportunity to access the new agent anyway, even if you are not in the right trial. But it really does depend on trials, and it's not a very frequent situation. But we do get quite a few questions about, placebo.
Yeah, it's usually, treatment. From my experience, a fixed term where they'll do the double-blind placebo-controlled. And then you're right, it'll become open label. And if you were on the placebo, you'll potentially be able to get the real deal.
That's right, yeah. I was wondering if anyone in the audience has any more questions about clinical trials. And, if you can't think of any now, please reach out to myself, reach out to Christina, who kindly left her contact details there. And are there any questions for Pat Neely about her wonderful, inspiring presentation earlier on, and what participation in the Australian Amyloidosis Network may be about? I can't see everyone's faces, so please do feel free to speak up if you wish. And if no one has any questions, there is a question in the chat. Are the clinic trials available at Box Hill Hospital? So yes, there are quite a few clinical trials available at Box Hill, as well as other AAN centers in Sydney, in Brisbane, and in Perth. There are also isolated clinical trials on amyloidosis outside of the AAN centers, but we have kind of the largest numbers in these hospitals. So I would encourage you to have a look on the AAN website, where all the current trials open to recruitment are listed. There is also inclusion and exclusion criteria available on the website. And if it looks quite complicating, then the best thing to do would be to discuss participation in a clinical trial with your primary clinician, be it hematologist, cardiologist, and so forth, and see if they can refer you to, for example, Box Hill Hospital, where we will see you at very short notice usually and have a chat about trial participation. Usually that first conversation is about, half an hour to an hour long. And as Christina mentioned, we do really try our best to answer all your questions. We'll send you home with some more information to read and have another long follow-up appointment after that as well.
And we're always happy to, just because you sign the form and you're on the trial doesn't mean the questions stop. We're always happy to answer them when you come in, and give us a call if you have any burning questions in between appointments.
Mm. And if by some chance you feel it's overwhelming, the trial is not agreeing with you, you're developing side effects that are really affecting your quality of life, you have full right to withdraw from the clinical trial participation, and that will not really impact any further treatments. Yes, and we do encourage people to really take the ownership and speak up if they wish to do so. So, Christina, thank you so much. Once again, it's been wonderful. And Pat, it's fantastic that you were able to join us today as well. I always love listening back into the origins of the AAN and how this organization started. So thank you to everyone who joined us today, of course, wherever you are joining from, different corners of Australia, whether you're patients or family members of someone affected by amyloidosis. And your presence and your participation in these educational events is really important as we grow this community together. And once again, special thank you to our wonderful speakers who've taken time from very busy schedules to be here. And I really appreciate you all joining in. Please enjoy the rest of your afternoon and have a happy Christmas. We will have several more educational events at the start of next year, or throughout the next year. We do try to organize them every 3 months or so, and we invite different specialists across Australia to join in and weigh in about their expertise. And please have a read through the AN website and through